Welcome to the Greenway Outdoors Podcast, your trusted source for outdoor information and entertainment. The Greenway Outdoors is also an internationally syndicated TV show and conservation advocate aimed at bringing millennials and Generation Z into the outdoors. Welcome to the Greenway Outdoors. The Greenway Outdoors Podcast is brought to you by Ram Trucks, built to serve. Motor Trend's Truck of the Year for the third year in a row. Bass Pro Shop and Cabela's. Your adventure starts here. And by Tracker Boats. Fish the best.
Hello and welcome to episode 62 of the Greenway Outdoors Podcast. My name's Kyle Green.
I'm Ryan.
I'm AJ.
And we have a guest in the house, and his name is...
Brad Humphrey.
Brad Humphrey from Tracker Boats. Well, really, the entire Marine Group.
White River Marine Group, yes, sir.
Exactly. We have a big announcement today, and I'm going to kick off with that because otherwise I just don't want to ruin everyone with the suspense.
That's why they're here.
It might be too much. It might be too much. So we are officially partnered with White River Marine Group and specifically Tracker Boats and our TV show. So you probably noticed a lot of logos being dropped in our podcast, in our Huntcast, and stuff like that. But what you can expect to see is probably the most beautiful aluminum boat hitting the water in our show very, very soon because we have a brand new Tracker Targa 19. I'm obsessed with it. Brad, you guys nailed it on that one.
It's a fantastic platform. Lots of opportunity to do different things with that boat.
It's just when you're in Michigan and you have the Great Lakes, having that super deep V just changes your life. And let's face it, we're not responsible enough to have a boat made out of anything but aluminum. Cause
for sure.
it's no Sylvan.
Us.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, actually, back in the day, my first boat was a Sylvan. I got it on Craigslist, so you can't be mad at me. But that was my first kicker to get going. And, I mean, it served its purpose. But now we're upgrading this brand-new boat, and it is just...
This is cream of the crop.
It's unbelievable.
It's true.
So on this episode, we're actually going to break down some of the exciting things going on at White River Marine Group. And if you're not familiar, that is the group outside of Bass Pro and Cabela's and now Sportsman's Warehouse. That's their boat company. So when you go to a Bass Pro and you see all those beautiful boats on the showroom floor, that's the group that's there. We picked the Tracker, but there's a lot to offer, so we're going to go through our boat. We're also going to answer some of the questions. Like, if you get a new boat, one of the things that always, messed with me was, like, people always, like, when they have a boat, they seem to know what they're doing. And when they know what they're doing, they always have, like, a bag of items in their glove box where they're like, this is what you need if this goes wrong. This is what you need if that goes wrong. And if I don't have those things and I take my dad out and something goes wrong, he's like, oh, you don't have the Jimmy Jab thing that plugs in the thing? Oh,
read the directions.
Wow, what a captain this guy is. So I'm trying to dodge that, so we're going to go into that. But there's also some bigger announcements aside from getting to work with the Greenway Outdoors that White River Marine Group has. So we'll be going over that stuff too.
A lot of stuff.
But first, a couple off-the-cuff topics. So something I've noticed in our long drives is everywhere we go and everywhere we travel to, I would say we've been doing this for 6 years. I would say in the first 2 years, if we saw a bald eagle, we'd all freak out about it. And Brad, jump in any time if you've got anything to contribute even on these off-the-wall topics. But we would go out and, like, if we saw a bald eagle, it was a big deal. And over the last, 6 months to a year, everywhere we go, we're seeing so many of them.
Yeah.
I went through my I'm 33, so 25 years of never seeing them. And then when I joined the crew, every time we travel any state, I always thought they were in one specific location, but they're everywhere.
Everywhere. I was just in Florida, and when we were there, they had all the telephone poles were set up with platforms on top specifically for the bald eagles. And I was like, oh my gosh. So this caused me to do a little bit of research. And in my research, I found that right now there is roughly 300,000 bald eagles in the lower 48 alone. Now, in 1963, there was less than 1,000. So
In what year?
1963.
Wow.
So
they've brought back that population quite a bit.
Well, exactly. So it got to me thinking, at some point, when you get them that high, that number that high, you go from, it being real cute. Everyone loves grizzly bears. Nobody likes them in their backyard, right? And, at what point would bald eagles get interesting? I swear to you, this was not staged. This was, what I was going to talk about today. I find a story that, 2 weeks ago, there was a man in Idaho. Okay, he has a farm with sheep and lambs. He had 54 lambs killed inside of 3 weeks.
Wow.
Jeez.
They're just up there taking them out.
Well, what it was killed by was puncture wounds, and he was, unsure of what was killing him.
They weren't doing any like type of sacrificial stuff.
Yeah. There was also crop circles he mentioned, so I don't know. No, so he's out there one day with the lambs, and down comes a bald eagle and slams into a lamb, grabs him, doesn't pick him up fully, but stabs the bejesus out of him like a turkey on a decoy, and then goes off, kills the lamb, and he's like, hey! And then it goes off, and it would have probably come back later to get or whatever. So he assumes that's a suspect. Now, here's the weird thing about this dude. I'd be so pissed. I'd be like, I want this bald eagle out of here.
Yeah.
So he calls the DNR out. They come out, and they're checking it out. And they're like, okay, well, here's your options. And they were going to give him, there's a license for this. It's called a hazing, which it's not what you're thinking, Ryan. Relax, put your pants on. It is, it's not the hazing from high school. The swim team brings back bad memories. But
To be clear, I was not on the swim team.
And he
I was
wasn't-
on the wrestling team.
There you go.
Difference between me and
different hazing, right?
Yeah, mine was a little more brutal.
So the hazing permit allows you to make noise to scare them away. But that's like it. So that's like...
I was gonna say, where's the line of, hey, these things are attacking my property,
So they're like,
but they're highly illegal.
So this guy, his last name was Matthews. He's like, well, here's the deal. I feel bad, though, trying to scare the bird away because it already laid eggs because they went up and surveyed it. The DNR did. They're like, they've got eggs. So if you can scare them away, but those eggs won't make it. And he's like, well, then just leave it. And left it. And I was like, I'd be out there with bullhorns, whatever. So
Play metal music. Who knows?
So even like messing with a bald eagle, though, to that point without the proper permits in any way, handling, moving nests, anything like that, it's up to 2 years in jail and $250,000 fine.
I figured it was high.
So if this is happening to you or a bald eagle is messing with your stuff and you go blow a blowhorn at it, that's the punishment.
They said handling or moving nests.
Okay, so
But it said without the proper permits, messing with. So I think it's like a discretion thing. Like
yeah.
you could I could see a scenario where what you're saying would end up being the case.
Yikes.
Based on like how they
So don't mess with them.
Yeah, so he left them. They were like, "All right, we're good. We'll just do that." And now he's building some sort of structure
Atrium.
to protect the lambs, as opposed to
It's like that big bird cage in Jurassic Park 3 at the end.
it's just like that.
But it'd be for the lambs. It'd be for the lambs, except for,
the sacrificial lamb of being it's exactly what it would be like. So yeah, he wants to build something to go over to protect it. So I thought that was cool. One of the other things that we just had happen, an episode that's going to be coming out from the time you're listening to this podcast, probably 2 to 3 weeks, end of June, on the Greenway Outdoors on Sportsman channel, which is on Saturdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. When that comes out, it is about we upland hunted for quail, and then we also duck hunted. So it was a combination episode, which I hate, but nature's nature, and good luck filming quail on camera. So we did a combination episode, and in it didn't make the show cut just because of time and the way the content flowed. But we had a hawk. Ryan, it was you and I don't know if you remember. We had of course, there was a little hole that all the mallards wanted in that we weren't hunting.
Yeah.
And when I say pothole, I mean not much bigger than the size of this table. And they all just kept going to it. And it was like there was 3 or 4 of them in there. And a couple hawks started swarming it, dive bombing them.
Yeah.
So one by one they would go away, and the hawk was hitting them in midair. And I was like going through like the perfect scenario. I'm like, I can't seem to shoot today. So if that hawk can just mess him up enough, but not kill him, and then he can peter his way over here jacked up.
You'll still get credit.
Slow down my shot a little bit, have him come to the decoys for safety, and give me a better go at him. But that is not the craziest hawk story or bird of prey story we have. AJ, why don't you take this one, considering it happened to you while you were flying the drone?
I'm convinced it's going to happen to me from now on, no matter what.
You're almost annoying about it.
Especially out west. Out west, there's a predator bird population like you wouldn't believe.
I mean, we were in Ohio, and I'm doing some drone filming, and I see these hawks kind of swarm, and I don't think anything of it because I've never had an experience. And then I'm watching the viewfinder, and I see this bird come talons out, straight head on to the drone. The drone's about 200 feet in the air, and I'm like, oh no, go down.
It's like you're watching the worst TV show ever.
I'm like,
because
down,
it actually
down, and like the thing's like, and the thing's like, I mean, it's circling it, It's attacking it. I'm convinced that one of the propellers hit the feathers because it was a little dusty when it landed.
Oh, when it did a
And I
like
thought,
a jerk
look,
to make you
it's
think
going
that.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was pretty durable. So
What's funny
it kept
was
going.
we were flying the drone towards
Oh, yeah, we thought
the
it.
giant plume of smoke off in the
it was
distance.
Yeah, there's
Suspected
also a fire.
So we should have been minding our own business.
That's
Yeah.
a good point. Because
That's what we get for being.
that was why it was in the air.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and then now when I'm filming it and flying it, I see plethora of birds circling it, and I'm just, it's terrifying because one of them is going to do it again.
Yeah.
Right.
And those drones aren't cheap.
No, they're not. And you can't really insure them.
No.
They're like uninsurable.
They
There
used
was
to
a
be.
period of time where you could, and then something happened where let's not help people, and then
It's like, every time though, it's a couple grand. Like, there's $2,000 gone.
Yeah.
There's nothing I can do about it because that
And-
bird's fast.
Yeah, and we're pretty good at taking those drones out too. So,
Some of us are.
well, yeah.
I mean,
He's like, why you guys?
I'm the only one that flies it. So,
We've had some rough drone. We go through a couple drones a year.
Yeah.
But to be honest, when you put it up that often in the places we go, you're begging for it.
Yep.
The worst was Hawaii though, where it just flew away.
It
yeah,
just flew away.
AJ became suicidal over it.
Yeah.
He was like swimming out into
He
the
got
ocean.
so irrational.
I was hoping for the best.
I don't know
You
what you
were,
thought the
man.
best would be in the water.
There was a small rock island that it could have landed. I mean,
He
but it
just
didn't.
so we're out. We're doing snorkeling we're spearfishing.
Spearfishing, yeah.
And he's got the drone going over us. He's on shore a long ways away, but he's watching us from a distance. Ryan's in a boat filming us up close. The drone's working from above. And you said you went like under a tree or something like that.
I mean, we're talking a matter of like half of a second that I didn't have eyes on it, and then in that half second, it was gone.
It just took off. So it just tried to, we don't know if it tried to go home or whatever. And then he got upset because there was a lot of important footage on it, and we needed that for the episode because we needed it. And so he like started freaking out, and then he's
Yeah.
like, there's an island out there. It's like the island is like a good ways away, and he's like, he just starts getting in the water in his clothes to swim out there. I'm like, dude, get on shore. What are you doing? He's like, I'm solving this.
I know we've all come back to shore at this point and just kind of like bummed out that this happened. AJ disappears for a while, and walking down the shoreline, which was not really a shore. It was like this pile of rocks that came down into the ocean. And he comes back, his legs are all bloody, and he's got cuts all over him.
Water.
Like, what is going
When
on?
waves crash you against the rock wall, it's
I'm like,
it's
I care
intense.
more about you than the drone.
Which
right?
is funny because everything they said about the rocks was don't go near them or stand on them.
we all
I
went
wasn't
towards
listening
him.
to reason.
I got
you
I
went
got,
to him too.
I got seasick and I went right for him. I kicked a moray eel in the face.
Wow.
Yep. No, I didn't know it. I was seasick while in the water and unable to get out and dehydrated. I was just panicked.
Yeah. So
I
that
had
was our
Jeff to
Hawaii
save me.
experience.
So that's
So fingers crossed that birds do not
Stay
attack
away.
you.
Moral of the story. So a fishing episode that we have coming up, and by the time you see this, it should be Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. It'll air on Sportsman Channel. A salmon episode. So this took place in Manistee, Michigan, and we're on the Manistee River. There's a salmon migration that happens there, and something I wanted to touch on the podcast today is a lot of people when they're talking about the salmon fishery, like if you were just talking to somebody that they're like, oh, we don't even go anymore. So many people I talk to, they don't go anymore because the numbers are down.
Yeah.
So people that have historically gone every year, family trips, even Scott, he's like, they're just not there in the numbers. You need any more to make it worth it. So we went up, and I was like, oh, God, this is a typical Greenway Outdoors filming experience where
Totally.
we're going.
Should have been here yesterday.
Yeah, of course. We were slamming them yesterday. So we went up there, and here's what I want to say from someone who lives here. Hadn't salmon fished before, but the numbers were there, I felt like.
Yeah. Yeah. They were jumping all around us.
Yeah, there may be less for sure, but they were there. So what happened is back in, I want to say it was the 1960s, there was an alewife population that was really high. Alewife is a small silver herring fish, and it was in the Great Lakes. And they said, hey, we'd like to knock these numbers down because there's too many of them. We could bring in salmon, which can handle fresh water, and then that would be great because it would create a fishery, and they could eat all the alewives. So that happened and worked, and then it created like hundreds of millions of dollars industry. Just insane.
Yeah.
Like the Great Lakes salmon fishery generates a lot of money for the state, and it's amazing and it's great and everything like that. They built the fish hatcheries to release them, continue it going. All was well in the world. Well, when we brought in and likely to the Great Lakes first, possibly Lake St. Clair or the Great Lakes first. They don't know exactly where. But likely from overseas, we brought in zebra mussels by accident.
Yeah.
Zebra mussels came in, and what they do is they filter out microorganisms. So they're eating the zooplankton out of the water, and what that does is all the other organisms that were eating that zooplankton can't now because the zebra mussels are swiping it out. This hurts plant life. This hurts the entire, all of the balance
The
of
plankton are like the key ingredients of the food chain
everything.
because everything goes up from there.
So once you get rid of that, what it does create is very clear water. It's pretty.
Oh yeah.
It clears out the water, but not in a good way. Knocks out the life.
Yeah.
And so what they're seeing now is because of that, the alewife populations have just plummeted.
Yeah.
With the alewife populations plummeting, the DNR was forced to say, okay, if we continue to release the same amount of salmon, the result will be bad because they'll eat all of them, and then we won't have a good migration back. A lot of them just won't make it. There won't be enough food for them. So they're trying to create that predator-prey balance, and it's a fine-tuned thing that they're working on right now. But as of 2020, when we went, I was pretty impressed with how many fish we did see.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're down, but I think it's still worth fishing.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't come out like, yay, that was the best trip of our lives. But if you had spent more time out there than we did, you'd do just fine.
Yeah.
Were you fishing in the fall?
Yeah.
It was the fall.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've done that a couple times. That
Yeah.
is a fun way to fish.
How did you do it?
We were throwing stick baits towards like the log jams, and we were getting some bites that way, but we ended up floating skein.
Yeah, and that's the go-to is we did in the beginning of the show, we actually caught our biggest one off of the stick baits, which is like it's like a skinnier Rapala. It just acts a little bit different. It helps with the current a little bit better. Some people use Rapalas, but it's like that. They're casting it up and running it in, and that's more of an aggravation strike. So the fish are in their holes as they're migrating. They're irritated by each other. I mean, they're just they got one thing on their mind, and you're in the way of it.
Sexy time.
Yeah, sexy time. So they bite out of that, and then we noticed that in the morning and night it seemed to work better. That
really?
did, and then it was midday we switched to the skein,
Okay.
and we did better that way.
Good deal.
Yeah. How many did you catch?
I didn't catch very many, but the boat I was on, we boated. I mean, it was at least almost a dozen. It was fun. It was
Nice.
a blast.
Did you
Did you
go
eat
through a
anyone?
charter?
Yes, I know a couple guys over in that area.
Who do you know?
Doug Samsel is who I went with. He's been up there guiding on that river for years and years.
Okay.
Used to be on our Nitro Pro team down here in Detroit. So
Nice.
That's how I met him. But it was a different way of fishing and a fun way of fishing. I don't know how fly fishermen ever get those salmon in on a fly rod.
I
With
don't-
the power that they have, you know.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And they have the current working with them too, and they're so strong.
Yep.
And they're even as they get farther upstream, but we were getting them where Manistee Lake becomes Manistee River.
We got a couple in there too.
And that was something.
Mhm.
They were angry. Even the
Really?
jacks. Did you get any of the small ones?
Yeah, we did catch a couple small ones,
Yeah.
and they were going airborne.
Yeah.
Fighting them back in. It was
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Did you get to eat any of them?
Yeah, we smoked a few of them.
What'd you think?
Yeah, they were good. They were great.
Yeah, I think it's such a bad. People are like, oh, they're dying and they're disgusting and they
No, they're
black
great.
mouth and
They were still pretty silver.
you're
They look good.
you're picky
Yeah.
and you like them.
I thought it was great.
How'd you guys cook them? Air fryer?
Yeah, we air fried them.
Yeah, Kayla liked them too.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Great.
they're pretty good.
What's your like fishing choice? Like, what's your go-to when you're going out fishing, whether it's bass or?
I love that smallmouth bass, and we've got the best spot, in Lake St.
Yeah.
Clair. It's hard for me to go
Yeah.
anywhere else bass fishing if I'm not going to St. Clair. So
Yeah.
Sure. When I see there was something online the other day. It was a meme. It was like, if you could pick one lake to fish in your lifetime, what would it be? And it was Okeechobee. How do you say it?
Okeechobee.
Okeechobee. And then another one I hadn't heard of, and then Lake St. Clair. And I was like, well, I fish Lake St. Clair all the time. You
Yeah.
don't realize how lucky you are to have
no,
it
we
here.
Yeah.
don't. No, we don't.
But then you go to places like Idaho, and they're fishing those rivers,
And they don't want to
With-
be there.
6,000 trout per mile.
It was offensive. It was
Was it
offensive.
really?
Yeah, they don't.
They have no idea what they have.
They think of rainbow trout the way you think of bluegill.
Yeah.
Really?
It's a weird mix, man. We have that episode coming out in probably a month and a half, 2 months. That one is going to be something special. We went out with the Department of Natural Resources there, and we did the shocking efforts. So the
wow.
rainbow trout on there are super overpopulated, and they're out competing the native cutthroat. So they're transplanting the rainbows to other rivers to give the cutthroat the space they need to get the population
Oh, I
numbers back to
gotcha.
how they should be. Well, depending on who you ask. that's the scientific story. There's people that have no basis on science that disagree with it, but that's what's happening.
Yeah, we came back after doing the electroshocking. We came back and there was notes on all the trucks protesting what we were doing.
Yeah.
It was pretty interesting to see the opinions
Something-
right there in front of us.
Something, man. I always say, like, when you're casting, every cast you make, it's like, especially in new waters, you're like asking a question in a way where you're like, what's there? What could happen? What's down there? You're like trying to get an assessment. And when you're shocking it and you're seeing everything that's in the water, you're like, I casted there 44 times and didn't get a bite. And there's so many fish here. It like changes the way you think about.
Yeah,
bet.
it was incredible just watching all the fish come up. Like
It
we must have seen thousands of fish, but you couldn't net them quick enough to catch them all.
I did my best, Ryan.
I
I'm just
know.
kidding. No, that was a workout. I didn't think that would be like a physical difficulty.
Yeah, and they have this system set up where they put chips in the trout's head, and then you can take the chipped trout to the DNR, and they'll scan them, and there'll be the chip has a prize, like a monetary prize. It's worth a certain amount of money to try to get people to go fishing for them. It was
And
pretty
to
interesting.
report what like
50 to $1,000.
Yeah,
$50 to $1,000 per fish that you get, and I would say for every 30 fish we caught one, we had one or two.
yeah.
really,
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
like and catching 30 fish sounds like a lot, not there.
really.
Yeah, they would consider that like a okay day. So like nearly every time they go out, they get at least one tag.
Wow.
Yeah. You got to be willing to like travel around with fish heads to the DNR office to get it handled, but
That's true.
I mean, but
I'd
they
do
were
it.
saying the guys we were with saying the tagged fish that they catch pays for all their fishing for the year.
yeah.
Wow.
So it's pretty impressive and a cool system.
When we come back, we're going to talk about our Tracker boat and some of the details that you need to know about Tracker boats. And until then, word from our sponsors.
Trust isn't built in a day. It's built over time. The early hours and the late nights. It's built by doing the work and pushing the limits every day. Because the promises we make are the promises we were built to keep.
If you'd like to help support the Greenway Outdoors, please like and comment on this podcast and subscribe to all of our channels.
The ideal situation would be for the hawk to grab that duck, mess him up kinda, so we get to see that, because that'd be awesome, but the duck still kind of gets away, and then gives me a flop shot right here, yeah. So I really hope that happens.
Hello and welcome back to episode 62 of the Green Outdoors podcast. So I told you guys we're here with Brad. He is a regional sales manager for all of the White River Marine Group.
Yes, sir.
And specifically, obviously, my love and affection is for Tracker boats. But tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me about your position and how you got into the position you're at, because you've got a kind of a cool story about how you've been with Bass Pro for a long time.
Yeah, I got involved with Bass Pro right out of high school, first year of college, and started working there. I love to hunt and fish, so it was always a place that I wanted to work.
Sure.
So I've been there now half my life and done a lot of different things with the company.
What was your first role?
Cashier?
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Cashier.
Nice.
Yeah,
I love that.
I've kind of worked my way all
Yeah.
the way, you know.
That's
so
amazing.
it's been just phenomenal opportunities after opportunities. So it's been a great ride.
One thing I've noticed about everybody that I work with at Bass Pro, and I'm not saying this because you guys are our partners or anything like that, every single person is like so kind. Like it's like they're going out of their way to make your day. You guys were on the phone call. We're talking to Jennifer Murphy. She's been the person that we've worked with a majority of our time.
Yeah.
But on the conference call, she's like the nicest human. Like she's like genuinely cares about what we're doing and conservation and the things we're working on. And then the way that I got started with Bass Pro in the first place was we went to a store in Florida. I told them about the show like when we were first starting. And they introduced me to someone. Her name's Katie Mitchell. Do you know her?
No.
Okay, she's like the coolest lady ever. She's at the corporate office. And she was like, she's the one that sets up like a lot of the events and things that happen, like the cooperation stuff with Bass Pro and other organizations. And then she introduced me to the right people to work with for the show and everything. But she like went out of her way because she liked the show to help me. Without Katie and without Jennifer, we wouldn't even be working with Bass Pro. So it's just everybody there from the top bottom. My experience has been just kind.
I think that starts with our founder, Mr. Morris. I mean, he is the nicest man. I mean, just most genuine person you could ever want to meet. So,
Really?
and that just radiates down through the company, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, it's the leader is everything. I'd like to talk to him one day because what he's done is.
I don't think there's been anybody else in our lifetimes that's contributed more to conservation and preserving what we love.
Right.
I mean, I don't think there's anybody that's done anything
Wow.
more.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get enough credit for that, in my opinion.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's like
absolutely.
I think too, like once you become like a certain level of, because he's famous along with being successful.
Very successful businessman.
So it's like when you're that successful and that famous, it's like people put you in a category where it's almost like you're not a real person, you know, and you lose sight of like the traits that he has. Because he started, was it in the back of his dad's
Liquor store, Brown Derby liquor store in Springfield, Missouri. It's an amazing story.
No way.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
To see where it started and then to see what it is now, it's
he like sold bait in the back of his dad's liquor store,
Okay.
and that's how it started.
that's how it started.
How
And
old was he when he started doing that?
He was just out. I think he was just out of high school. He was a young tournament angler. He was involved in tournament fishing, and there wasn't a lot back then in the
Yeah.
70s. When you went to buy a boat, you had to buy the boat from one guy, the motor from another guy, the trailer from another guy. He was the first one
no kidding.
to bring all that together as a package.
That's
Smart.
amazing because like the size of the Bass Pro company and everything it's engulfed is just amazing. He did that since high school. Like
I think it was just beyond high school. It was in his mid-20s type years.
that's pretty amazing to
Yeah.
get all that done in your lifetime.
Our CFO, Gordon, he's an incredible guy. Super successful in the military and worked for nonprofits and just an incredible human being. He said that he was fishing one time. Him and his buddies were just on the dock getting ready to take off, and there was a big bass tournament going on one of the rivers that they were on. And his name's our guy's name's Gordon, and somehow it worked out where Johnny Morris was on the dock watching everything take off and start and everything. And he said, "Oh, you want to?" Gordon invited him to go fishing, and Johnny Morris got on the boat. They went out and went fishing, caught fish all day. Super nice guy. And then he said to Gordon at some point, he's like, "You don't know who I am, do you?" And Gordon didn't know. He's like a stupid kid, you know. So Gordon's like, "Oh my gosh," he was so almost embarrassed after. But they ended up becoming like buddies, and he was teasing Gordon because Gordon had like not good rods and reels, not a good boat and stuff. So he's like, "You got to get yourself this, you got to get yourself that," you know, like
He's like, I know this great place down the road.
Moral of the story is
Awesome.
though, name another owner of a company that would just get on a boat with somebody and make friends with
Just
them.
be your
and
friend.
Spend the day with them.
Yeah. You said you've had a couple interactions with them, right?
Yeah, briefly at like dealer conferences and dealer meetings. And
Yeah.
It's been great to get just a quick second to chat with them, and our dealers love him.
Yeah.
It's a great partnership, not only with just our company stores, but we have independent dealers all over the country as well and internationally. So it's a big partnership, and he does a great job with it.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
So you started as a cashier, worked your way up.
Front end associate, yeah, I wasn't doing that too long, but then kind of went into a couple other areas. I got my first management role in shipping and receiving, so I learned that side of the operations of that side of the business, and then went into the fishing. I was the fishing and fly fishing manager, so it was like my all-time.
Yeah.
You know, it was a huge job for me. I loved it. I got to interact with all the customers and employees. It was a great thing. And then I got into the boat business in about 2011 is when that started.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Been there ever since.
Okay.
In the boat business.
So
awesome.
as the regional sales manager, what does that role look
So
like?
what we do is I have like in my situation I have Michigan and Wisconsin, so I take care of all the dealers
Okay.
with sales training. I help them order their boats, technical questions, warranty situations, anything that they may need. We just want a great partnership
Okay. Okay.
with anybody in Wisconsin and Michigan, and we have guys scattered out around the whole.
Obviously, you can probably speak on the Marine Group in general as how you guys have had to deal with COVID, but how has that changed? Because I know it seemed like inventories for everything in all industries, from especially outdoor stuff, though, seemed to just plummet because people couldn't get the product made fast enough because there were so many new boaters. Have you seen the same thing?
Well, we had some of those struggles because the demand shot through the roof. We weren't sure what was going to happen, and then all of a sudden,
It'd be all or
the
none, you'd think.
demand climbed like we've never seen. But if there's been one positive thing from this pandemic, it's been the amount of new boaters that we're introducing to the sport, and that's something that we're so happy about. It has been difficult keeping up with demand. There's been delays, there's been supply chain delays, just like everybody's seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the most positive piece of it is we're introducing new people who've never owned a boat before, never thought to own a boat before.
Right.
So it's growing, and I think that's so important.
What do you think that attributes to?
Yeah.
Do you think it's the stimulus checks? Do you think it's the fact that they have more spare time, more people working at home?
I think
during quarantine you couldn't go anywhere. You might as well
no,
go out on the boat, right?
I think that was a big piece of it. Is there was you couldn't do the things that people normally do: go to bowling, go to the movies, go to Disney. So they invested, instead of taking vacations and flights, they invested in a boat, and that was a way for them to stay connected with their family and social distance at the same time.
Just how you wrote it up, right?
Yeah.
Just in those sales meetings, exactly how you wrote it up.
Yeah. It's been a difficult environment keeping our dealers in stock with the demand.
Yeah.
But like I said, the positive is.
And that's probably, that's kind of a good problem to have.
It's better than the alternative,
right?
Yeah,
they're not selling
absolutely.
anything.
We're blessed. I mean, it's been a fantastic couple of years in the boat business. We just need to get our dealers back in stock now.
Do you think you guys have an advantage? Like you were saying earlier, I don't know if we were recording or not, but Johnny Morris was the first one to take the boat and have everything in one place. And that's one thing too. Like when we bought our boat, it says right there is like your trailer is made by it's a Tracker trailer, Tracker boat, Mercury motors. It's all done and packaged, ready to go. And he was really the first to do that. So do you think that you had some advantages over the other brands as far as stocking issues go?
Oh, absolutely, because we build our own trailers. We don't buy our trailers from another outfit. So that helped tremendously. We build our own pontoon trailers, all the fishing trailers for the fishing boats. So
I could assume how that would gum up. It's like the more you count on others, the more it's likely to get gummed up, especially overseas stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, over the overseas stuff especially, and we work a lot with raw materials because we make all of our own upholstery. We do a lot of that stuff. So there's been some challenges. The great folks in Missouri and the boat builders that we have in Ozark have done a great job getting navigating through this with the demand. The folks in Lebanon, Missouri, and some of these other big towns down there where we have our boat building facilities, they've done a great job for us.
That's
now,
super cool.
Walk us through the building process and like what makes your guys' boat so special.
Well, it's handcrafted by those folks in the Ozarks. So this material comes in rolls. The aluminum comes in rolls, and they form it. And they unpackage it and form it. It's amazing to see the factory and to see where you can go in and see the rolls coming in.
Yeah.
And then you go through and see the whole process, going through the hydraulic presses and the formed hulls, being plumbed and hanging motors on them, making the seats, and then to see it come out the back door.
Right.
It's amazing to see. I tell people all the time, these boats are made in Missouri boats.
Right.
These are built by the boat builders.
That's so cool
right
too.
There in the Ozarks.
That's really cool.
Great job. Great job.
That's made my dad proud. He was looking all that up, and he's like, "Good." I didn't want to see none of that Japanese stuff on there. He's all excited.
So how does the overseas stuff work? Are you guys putting the boats onto a trailer, then driving it to a ship, and then the ship is bringing it to the?
Yeah, we do have international dealers, so we're delivering boats overseas. They go into a container. I've never worked with international dealers, so I'm sure there's a process to it, but there's some things that they have to do when it gets overseas. So yeah, I'm sure that's been a massive challenge for sure.
Yeah.
And the costs, all the costs are going way up, too.
Yeah.
So everything's costing more now too.
Yeah, the raw materials in general are skyrocketing. Has that affected you yet?
Yes. Well, absolutely. We've had to make some adjustments, but one thing we have, and I think it's the size of White River Marine Group, our supply group has been working around the clock since this pandemic started to keep the raw materials coming into our plants, and I think that gives us an advantage.
That's amazing. So many people are like in a position where like, well, our company's failing, and then you guys are just out here killing it.
Well, and we buy a lot of stuff. We buy a lot of raw materials, so I'm sure we're the biggest boat.
You guys can
boat
Costco it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
there's some
super
buying
cool.
power there.
One of the things that I found interesting that we were talking about beforehand was you guys had a big announcement of an acquisition.
Yes, it did. A huge announcement a couple weeks ago. So White River Marine Group acquired Hatteras Yachts and Sport Boats in New Bern, North Carolina. So we're learning more about North Carolina. Really excited about it because it's a coastal, state-of-the-art manufacturing facility for saltwater boats. So our iconic Mako boats and saltwater Ranger boats will be moved to those facilities to where it'll be it's going to be a lot easier to manufacture. We're in a coastal area where we can do our testing and like I said, the folks in New Bern there in North Carolina have a fantastic facility, and we're excited to get in there. I spoke to my boss on the way over here today, and she was there.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's exciting times. It's very exciting.
I'm stoked about that. You think that? I mean, it's hard to not gonna. You're gonna want one made there. You know what I mean?
Legendary brand.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, if you're gonna have a brand make it, and you're gonna take over, or you guys acquired the brand, but if you're gonna acquire it, that's a facility you want.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest differences between saltwater versus freshwater boats?
Well, there's manufacturing techniques, with freshwater and saltwater, but a lot of it's testing. You want to be out. You want to be in a coastal area to where you can run these boats. And,
Right.
And
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
our other facility, we had facilities in Florida and other areas, but most recently Mako was being built in Oklahoma.
You want to see what salt does to something? Look at Michigan roads. You know?
Yeah,
You
right.
got that right.
Or your vehicle.
Yeah.
Just go look underneath it.
Yeah, Michigan roads will be a perfect example of what salt does.
So lots of stuff happening. I mean, and
Yeah.
it's great to work for a company that has stuff happening, and there's new
No
things
kidding.
developing all the time. Even during these difficult times.
Well,
Yeah.
here was my thoughts on specifically how we landed on our boat too. When we were like, okay, we're doing a lot of fishing episodes. I'd like to partner with a boat company. I was looking at the different options. I looked at them, and this is what made me think of that. The different companies that were direct competitors that wanted to work with us that I talked to all had the same feel about them where they're like, we want to work with you guys. Bear with us. Things are real tough right now. Things are really bad right now, with this and that. We don't know where this is, and we've had to let a lot of people go, but we want to work with you guys and this and that. And I talked to you guys when we were already working with Bass Pro Shops, and I was talking to Jennifer. She's like, oh, they got a lot of great stuff going on. We're going to be acquiring new companies. We've got this going on.
Yeah.
We're bringing on new people. We can barely meet the demand. We have so many. It's such a positive environment. And then I'm looking at the stats, and I understand if you don't want to do this, but when you're go to the St. Clair River, go to the Detroit River, okay, you're going to meet people with opinions on walleye boats. And I wanted a walleye boat because I want a deep V aluminum boat, and I want something that can handle the big water, and I want something that I can take into a lake, and if we want to throw a tube on the back or skis or whatever we want to do, we can do it. We want to take AJ's cute dog out on the boat, we got the room to do it. Everything,
Yeah.
These are the things that were important to me. So you go out and look at the walleye boats, and, if one of the competitors we looked at, everyone's like, you got to get a Lund. Well, I looked at the Lunds, okay, and I look at the technology that was in the Tracker, and it's as if there's like a 15-year gap between the two. The Lunds, it's like all this old tech. It's they have the name brand that, people have come to respect in the area, but the amount of features and benefits for so much less money on the Tracker boat, it was stupid. I was like, what do you...
Yeah.
Who would make that decision?
Yeah.
Because I put feelers out there. I want to know what people's opinions were, and I'm dogging people. I know you might not want to jump in on that right now.
Yeah,
but
I don't like to do that, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of nice boats. I think our boats are nicer, obviously, right?
Right.
But there's lots of choices. I mean,
Right.
all welded, riveted. I mean, there's certain characteristics to all of them.
Sure. But when I looked at the Tracker, and then I looked at, the new aluminum that you guys are working with. So almost all the boats I was looking at were 0.100. And then I looked at the new Trackers, and they're 0.125.
1/8. That's a 1/8 inch hull, where normally it's 1/10.
Now,
Absolutely.
tell people why that's so important.
Well, if you spend any time in Michigan on any of these Great Lakes or any big lakes, when
Yeah.
that wind kicks up, it gets nasty.
Right.
And it doesn't matter necessarily what boat you're in. If you're
Yeah.
driving too fast and not being careful, and you get stuck out there on a bad day, you could have, something could happen.
Uh-huh.
Having the thicker hull and the all welded construction of that boat, it's just another peace of mind.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, these are freshwater oceans.
Right.
I
Yeah,
mean, a lot of
definitely.
people that aren't from here don't realize how big these lakes are. These
No,
are
they don't.
freshwater oceans.
Freshwater oceans is the
You-
perfect description.
You're not looking at the other side of the lake.
No.
We were on St. Clair Saturday, and I mean, it was unbelievable how windy it was. And,
Right.
And then the big 40-footers start going by, and I tell you what, I was very glad I was in a deep V.
Right.
I can promise you.
Right.
Okay.
So,
So when we looked at it, I looked at all the features and benefits that we could get. And our boat was somewhere around I want to say, I think it was like $43,000. Something in that ballpark was like what our boat would cost. And that was with the kicker motor added on it. So we had the 150 horse Mercury that's standard on it. And then we had the 9.9 kicker added to it. And it was at $43,000. And it's got a better construction of the hull. It's got every creature comfort that you could ever want.
Yeah.
I mean, the dual live wells, and I'll have you go through some of the features of our boat as well. But there's so many benefits to it and so much better tech, and it's all in one package, and you leave there with it, and all your warranties and everything that you have is all there at Bass Pro, a company that's actually growing and won't go out of business next week. It was all right there. It's obvious what the choice was.
features and benefits is huge with our brand development team. we want standard features. We want to tell them what they're getting for this price. You're going to get the trolling motor. You're going to get the batteries. You're going to get the, it's a package. Everything comes with this boat that you need.
Yeah.
And there's certain things that you can upgrade, like you added the optional
But very
kicker.
few.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
it's like a
comes
one.
loaded. It comes with a radio. It comes with the fuel, all the gauges. I mean, battery charger.
I was impressed with the tech on there. I mean, it had USB ports.
Yeah.
I mean,
everything.
It was
It's
awesome.
got everything.
Yeah, and that was right out of the gate. I mean, it was like all these different stuff that you get when you go through the boat. Like when I was building the other boats online to compare, because I want to see. You know, we're gonna represent a company. I want to know that I'm representing the right company. I want to make the right decisions. So I did research, and I'm looking at the comparison, and I'm like, okay, if all the stuff that comes standard on the Tracker, I have to add on all the other boats. They're so much more expensive by the time it's all said and done. Here I've got this better, all welded boat that's 125 thick that even we won't wreck, and all these creature comforts that come standard on. I was like, it's not even a
We've
question.
done the exercises. I mean, in some cases, it's a very similar boat, same size, same motor, and the brand X is $11,000 more, and you couldn't find 11. I mean, there's no.
You couldn't add
way.
the yeah.
There's no way.
You guys it must have some kind of secret recipe to cut costs.
Doing it in
Well, we make our own upholstery.
Yep.
We make our own trailers. We don't.
So that's the key. They're outsourcing everything. Meanwhile, you guys are pretty much doing it all yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's going to cut costs. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
you want to do in anything. It's
Yeah.
no different than our show. You look at these other production companies that have 34 people on their team,
Yeah.
and they've got 34 people. When we tell people our budget per episode, they're hundreds of thousands of dollars more than us per episode. It's like, what the hell are you guys doing? What are you eating? Filet mignon while you're cooking? It's like,
Exactly.
what are you doing? But that's I kind of compare ourselves a little bit to a similar.
Well, and value has always meant so much to Bass Pro Shops and Tracker Boats, and we want a great value for our customers.
Right.
So that's always a massive focus. Was what kind of value can we bring?
So let's talk about our boat, what we got. Talk to us about the Tracker, because this is the Greenway Outdoors boat. So the V19 Targa, we got the Combo.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the fish and ski combo.
Yep.
So let's talk about that one a little bit.
That's a dream boat to me for a Great Lakes angler. It's so much versatility. You can go out in the morning, and you can do your trolling, you can do your jigging. I mean, you can do any type of fishing out of that boat.
Uh-huh.
And then come 11 o'clock, go pick up the family in tow tubes, and you flip up your back seats, and you got the whole family in there.
Mm-hmm.
I've taken those boats out before with just family friends, and we weren't even fishing. We were just going on the lake for a cruise.
Right.
Nice.
You can put your trolling motor down and cruise around, and you've got all the seating in the boat. So the versatility of that boat is part of the reason why it's so popular.
Yeah.
A couple of we've already mentioned the 1/8 inch hull. That's a huge win for that boat and a big advantage. I like the 2-piece formed hull. It's got lifting strakes built in, reverse chines that help with the handling.
Yeah.
And overall performance just with the hull. It's a great feature to have. 36 volt trolling motor capabilities if you wanted to put a big trolling motor to where if you're in the St. Clair River,
Yeah.
and you want to hold that boat right there in the river, sometimes 36 volt is necessary. So I've done so many different things with these boats. We've done downriggers, we've done turbo swings for towing tubes. I mean, there's been so many different things you can do with these boats. Just anything you can dream of, you can almost do it.
I was impressed with the Versatrack.
The Versatrack, we've done downriggers off that. There's all kinds of rod holders, rod trees. The Versatrack is very nice.
For those of you who don't know what it is, essentially it's a not a bar because it's inside.
Like a formed track built into the hull, into the gunnel.
So it runs up and down. So like where you want your rod holders and different things, you can move them and slide them in it and about it all over the place. Whereas normally it's like a fixed location. Like that's where your rod holder is. That's where this is. That's where that is. You can move this around, take them off, put them on, take them off, put them on. It's awesome.
It can go from a downrigger salmon boat to a family boat in about 5 minutes. You can twist those knobs off, unplug your downriggers, and pull them right off, and it's back to being a family boat.
That's awesome.
What other boat? I mean, you can't do that with other boats.
No. Every other boat, if you have a downrigger, it's in the way forever. That's what it is.
Forever.
Yeah.
And it's permanently attached, or at least the mount is. But.
The Versatrack is key. Anything else that you want to touch on the Targa specifically?
Yeah, there's just lots of great features to that. I mean, it's got an 11-inch gunnel, and one of the things that have sold me a lot of those boats is that big wide gunnel. Imagine yourself at the dock, and you're helping your mom in the boat, or your wife, or your girlfriend, or your kids.
Yeah,
it's got that great big wide gunnel to step on to get in and out of the boat. It's
so wide.
really
so
nice.
That's the along the sides of the boat where you'd rest your arm. I feel it's so big it feels so like when you put your arm up when you're when you're cruising around, you put your arm up there. It's just such a big.
It's wide, 11 inches. It's
What-
and then it's got rod storage built into it. Something
Right.
that nobody else has. I mean, that's something that
A
nobody
lot.
else has.
A lot of
Yeah.
rod storage.
Yep. Yeah, I think you. I mean, I don't know. You could probably easily fit 20 rods in that boat.
Yeah,
couldn't you? I mean,
all together because you got 8 in the bottom, and then on each side you could fit 3
and you could probably put 2 in each one.
easily.
Easy. So
Easy. So
it
you're
is,
looking. Yeah.
The versatility of that boat is awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I and so smooth running. We're in the break-in period, and for someone who gets a new boat, a lot of people talk about a break-in period. They used to say it with cars, like there was like a break-in period for cars, and some people say you should gun it to break it in. Some people say you shouldn't do much. What's the break-in period? Because I was actually surprised. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, there is a break-in period, and it's right in the right in your Mercury manual. But what it is like for the first couple hours of operation, they don't want you to exceed so many RPMs.
Yeah.
You want to vary your throttle settings. You don't want to go out there and just pin it at wide open throttle and leave it there for a certain period of time. So there's like a 10-hour break-in period, and it progresses as you go through it. Very detailed in your manual, but it's very good, and I think that means something for longevity of the motor. You want to break in that motor correctly.
Yeah.
And that basically what you're doing is, my understanding of it, and tell me if I'm wrong, is the engine is like machined, and what you're doing is kind of like smoothing it all out on the inside, just so it's operational and
Proper
frictionless.
break-in. Yeah, you don't want to overheat it and anything like that when it's brand new. You want to break it in slowly and as the manufacturer.
We have the
suggests.
standard 150 on it. That was another thing too. A lot of the standard competitor boats were 115s, some even less than that. Was the competitor motor. Ours was the 150 XL Mercury right out of the gate. That was a standard motor, and the thing I maybe
Yeah.
exceeded a little, but when we were breaking it in, just for a second I exceeded it.
It's okay for a second.
You're on plane for like 2 seconds,
2.6 seconds that boat gets on plane from full throttle.
and we had 3 people in the boat.
I bet. Yeah, it's got a
It's like nothing.
outstanding transom design where it's called the Power Track transom, where it's got a little bit of a setback back there, and it allows hard water to the prop, and it gets that nose down very, very quickly.
Interesting.
Very
Yeah.
nice.
It almost was like it was surreal. I mean, I couldn't believe how.
You just kind of just go, right?
It just is.
If
Yeah.
you've, it was so funny too. My dad and I got him and I went fishing a couple weeks ago. I was like, well, this is different because like you get in and it's hydraulic steering. My dad's he's like the guy that always fixes old stuff, and he hadn't had a newer boat, and he's like, I watched it go like that. He goes, you can just let go of the wheel and just go straight. I was like, yeah, that's how new boats are, Dad.
Hydraulic steering
Yeah.
device.
But that hydraulics, I mean, you could be cruising and you could just barely move the wheel like that, and it just like
Yeah.
a car. I mean, it's just. I've driven a lot of other boats. This was the smoothest boat I had driven. I couldn't
Oh,
believe
good.
it.
We took it out on Lake Fenton just to cruise around on our first warm day.
So smooth.
And it was just, we weren't fishing or anything. We weren't doing anything specific. We were just on it. And like you said, it does both. We were just
Yeah,
chilling
right.
out on it.
Right.
There's plenty of space for everything. You can just go lay out and tan and have fun and then go fishing.
Very, very smooth ride.
Now you've seen our show before, right?
Yeah.
Which ones have you seen?
I seen the Sturgeon show.
What did you think?
I loved it, and I felt like I knew where it was.
Okay.
It's kind of in my
You're-
backyard.
You're
nice.
probably right.
My backyard.
Yeah.
But, and then I saw the Chucker show, and I'm waiting for more to pop up on my DVR so I can continue watching.
Awesome. What did you think of the show overall?
Nice.
I thought it was great. It was a little different than what you see on some of the hunting shows, but I think it told more of the story, more of what we really do when we're hunting, and it's not just about the kill. It's
Yeah.
about the adventure that goes along with it, and
It's true.
cooking and all of that stuff is very cool.
It seems like the rest of that is quickly forgotten for some reason on all these other hunting and fishing shows. It's just like catch or kill. That's it. That's all we're watching.
Catch or kill, baby.
Here we are
Yeah.
at wherever.
Well, the real
Yeah.
the real goal, and we had talked about this, was when we started this show, 60% of hunting and fishing licenses are sold to white males over the age of 55. If we don't replace that demographic, we don't have a way to have we don't have a way to replace those funds. If we don't replace those funds, then what are we looking at? And that's been our goal forever, was to bring new people into the show. And if we were always just kill shot show after kill shot show like is out there, and we're not bringing new people into the industry, it's not going to work. And that's kind of why we built it the way that we did. And we're glad to have Bass Pro and obviously Tracker Boats in our back pocket now,
I know,
helping
it
us
sounds
out.
like you guys are really doing that too. 'Cause
That is a big focus for our company, and all the years working at Bass Pro, I can't tell you how many kids events we did, and we were
Yeah.
always trying to interact with the kids and teach them more about hunting. I mean, I remember the summer camps they used to do there for the kids, where you'd show them how to and a lot of kids don't get exposed to that stuff,
Right.
And
Right.
if you can plant a seed and make them want to try something,
It's all the difference in the world.
super important to
Yeah.
our company, the future of that.
Okay, I got one last question for you. With our new boat, I've noticed that it seems like, and I mentioned this earlier at the top, people always have a bag of things in their boat that they're like, you got to have this in your boat so that if this happens, you got it. And I don't want to get yelled at by my dad or anyone else by being a bad captain when something goes wrong. If you were like, here's a bag of things to keep in your boat to be on the safe side, what would they be?
The first thing that comes to mind is a wireless ship-to-shore radio.
Oh, wow.
Nice. I wouldn't have
Wireless.
thought- Okay.
You don't have to install those on the boat anymore with the big 10-foot antenna.
Yeah.
Wireless, especially, I like to fish the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
So, and we all know how big those are.
Yeah.
If you have a problem out there, it's certainly a good feeling to have that in your glove box.
Yeah. Mayday, mayday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course, you need all your registration paperwork and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
First aid, I think first aid is a great
That's
thing
true.
to have in the boat.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in a couple situations where a hook went in somebody's hand, and
Yeah.
rather than stop fishing, we were able to operate on it right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a couple good ones.
You've never had to use one of those radios, right?
Luckily, I have not.
Okay.
Luckily, I have not. But another good thing about it is some of the fishermen use those radios to communicate, so you can kind of hear what's going on, especially
Yeah.
in the Great Lakes. You
Yeah.
can hear captains out there
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah, we're catching them over on the, you're like,
Yeah.
where's that again?
Yeah, that's just a great caution thing to have
Yeah.
in the boat for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming in and hanging out with us on the
Thanks so much
podcast.
for
It's
having
been
me.
real.
We appreciate Tracker Boats. We're really excited about this. You're going to see Tracker, our new boat that we've been talking about. You've probably been seeing it this whole episode if you're watching this podcast on Carbon TV or YouTube. But you're going to be seeing that boat in a lot of our upcoming episodes. We're excited to do it. We'd like to thank Onyx. We'd like to thank Ram Trucks, Wilderness Athlete, Bass Pro Shops, Tracker Boats, Weatherby Guns. There's discount codes that have been going on throughout the video, or they're going to be in the link, or in the profile. And if you go to our Instagram, Facebook pages, anything like that, interact with us. We'd love to hear from you. Also, you'll always see our link tree on there, which has a list of all of our different links to different episodes, different podcasts, different things that we do. And also all of our discount codes can be found there too. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Green Outdoors Podcast. Stay green.